What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. All right, guys, before we get out of here for the night, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander MVP debate. So this ends up being a constant debate over the course of the years because there is a lack of consistent criteria. In my time following the NBA, everything shifts back and forth. Different voters value different things. There are huge portions of the voting base for MVP that dramatically consider, seriously consider catch-all metrics, which I vehemently disagree with. I think it's a bad way to try to make a decision of this caliber that involves such NBA history. There are a lot of different things about the MVP that I don't like, and that's why I don't spend too much time talking about it. That said, I think there's a specific issue arising here that is probably not, that should not be an issue involving whether or not Jokic has a real case. Is Jokic the best player in the NBA? Yes. Why? Because that sort of thing is determined in the playoffs. When we get to the playoffs, over the course of the last few years, Jokic is the indomitable force that I've seen. He is the one guy that reaches a level that no team can reach. And even back in that 2023 season, he had a very, very good defensive season, and he was very good defensively on the way to the title that year. Jokic is the best player in the league. There's nothing that Shai could do in the regular season context to take that away, in my opinion. That said, there is this idea that Oklahoma City is overwhelmingly talented, and that's why they're winning. And as a result, a lot of people are writing off Shai. And it's like, Shai's the guy that's on the overwhelmingly talented team. Jokic is the guy that's carrying a bunch of bums. He's the guy that deserves to win the MVP. Chet Holmgren's been out most of the season. His secondary shot creator, Jalen Williams, is very young by NBA standards. I saw a lot of people saying, Shai is surrounded by all this all-world defensive talent. You're right. Shai is surrounded by a very good defensive team. There's no offensive player playing off of Shai that's as good as Jamal Murray is. There's no shooter that plays for the Thunder who's as good as Michael Porter Jr. is. The Denver's construct is built more around offensive talent. Oklahoma City's construct is built more around defensive talent. What Shai's job this year has been to create every single shot for his team. Throughout this entire season, with Jalen Williams off the floor, just playing with a bunch of defensive-minded young athletes, he's been able to consistently put the ball in the basket and keep his team afloat on the offensive end. And when you really get down to it, they are 11 games better in the standings than Denver. Do you have any idea how much better Jokic would have to be than Shai in the regular season context for 11 games to be overcome? At the end of the day, to me, MVP should come down to three factors. It should come down to who's been the best player on the best team in the league, so team success, value to your team, how your team performs with or without you, and then lastly, I personally think it should factor in somewhat what your big picture reputation is in the league. If you're a player that we know can't play in the playoffs and is a merchant of regular season basketball, I think that should factor in. If there's another player that's pretty close, but that's a proven, we know this is one of the dudes in the NBA when we get to the playoffs. I do believe that should factor in. I do think Jokic has an advantage in that case. I'd even argue Jokic is more valuable to the Nuggets than Shai is to the Thunder. Although I think Shai is a lot more valuable to the Thunder than people give him credit for. They're a good team without Shai. They're a fucking awesome team with Shai. He lifts them to that level. I saw people say, if you take Jokic off the Nuggets, what does that team win in? Take Shai off the Thunder. How many games? They're in the play-in. So it really comes down to that last piece, which is who's been the best team. And there's just such a massive advantage there. The Nuggets have had substantial issues on defense. They've consistently struggled against good teams in the league. They have not been nearly as good of a basketball team as the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the gap in value and reputation between the two is too small, in my opinion, to make up that gap. And it gets a little bit deeper when you start to factor in the reasons why Denver has struggled. Denver has been a bad defense this year. And it's not all Jokic's fault. I don't want to sit there and make it seem like that's the case. There are a lot of guys that are struggling defensively on this team. Jamal can be a problem at times. Michael Porter Jr. can be a problem at times. Aaron Gordon's been banged up all year and hasn't been as good defensively. The young guys like Julian Strawther's been a disaster on defense at times this year. There are other guys at fault. But there is a simple concept, a simple reality about Denver's construct that limits them on the defensive end of the floor. Jokic cannot defend in drop coverage, and he cannot switch. If he defends in drop coverage, he's nowhere near good enough at protecting the rim. A guy like that on his heels, guys go right around him to the basket. And if you put him in space to switch, can't slide his feet well enough, he'll just give up dribble penetration. So there's like two coverages that the Nuggets can legitimately deploy. And both of them involve putting two on the ball. They can bring Jokic up to the level, and they can blitz with him. Those are really the only two things they can do. And so they exist in rotation. They exist in these 4-on-3s off the ball. And they're just not very good on the backside rotating out of it. That is a reality of why Denver struggles on the defensive end of the floor. Jokic is a big part of it. That's why Phoenix continues to have success against this team, scoring the basketball. Even though obviously they've lost their last few against them, but Phoenix can score. When the Lakers went in there and won, it was just 2 on the ball, 4-on-3s, easy wide open threes every single time down the floor. Their defense struggles because their base concept demands excellent rotations on the backside due to Jokic, and they haven't been very good on the backside. I think that is just too big of a factor in a gap that is 11 games wide in the standings for me to just be like, well, Jokic is the best player in the world, so therefore he deserves MVP. It's never been that way. The best player in the world deserves MVP. LeBron would have 10 of them. MJ would have 10 of them. It'd be a completely different story. Kobe'd have 5 or 6 of them. That's just not how it works. It's never been how it works. Shai's having a nearly as good season as Jokic for a much better team, and he may not be as valuable to them as Jokic is, but he's valuable enough that I think he deserves to be the favorite to win MVP at this point. There's, 20-something games left? Maybe Shai falls apart and Jokic is amazing and Jokic snatches it, but if the season ends today, I think Shai deserves it.